Hello, hello. Welcome to the Writers Tribe Talk Show. I'm your host, Elsa Kerr, and today I have a lovely guest that I'm very excited to have on. Her name is Laura Strobel, and she's written a very incredible book with one of my favorite words as the title, accountability. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for letting me have this time with you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you on. So one of the things I was really excited about, which is a silly thing for me to get all crazy about, was that in our conversation via email, you told me that you now reside in Germany. And I got so
I am
excited
here.
because I am half German. I'm half Cuban and half German. And I still have some relatives in Germany, but it's really not that often that I get an opportunity to talk to anybody that's in Germany, and I'm fascinated with it. So before we even get into your book, I need to know, like, how did you get from here? Because you're from Connecticut, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
okay, so how did you get from there, from here to there?
It's a love story. It's a
Oh,
love story.
my heart, my heart.
I met my husband in Connecticut. He had come out of the service, his first tour of service. His grandfather had died, and he had an option to stay in or get out at that time. And he wanted to get out and go and go to his grandfather's funeral and see his family. He hadn't been home for about 4 years. And he's from California and made his way to Connecticut. Long story long, because his sister was living there, and I met him.
Wow.
And we fell in love. And he decided after about 7 months of being out of the service, he wanted to go back into the service. So he was stationed in Germany. And he said, I really want to go back to Germany. And I said, then go, you have to go. And he said, well, I don't know if you can come. I don't know if I'll be in barracks. And I said, go, you have to go and follow your dream. 2 months later, he wrote and said, how fast can you get here? So that was
Oh.
the first time we were in Germany. We were in Germany. I'm an old woman now, Elsa. We were in Germany from 1986 to 1991.
Okay.
Then we went back to America for 10 years. Then we went to Munich from 2000 to 2002 with 2 children, put them in German schools, second grade and kindergarten. Then 22 months after we arrived, the bottom dropped out of the telecom industry, and we went back to America for 6 years. And in 2007, my husband had an opportunity to work with the Department of Defense here in Stuttgart, Germany. And we moved with our boys and 2 black Labradors. And we've been here ever since. So
Wow.
we were 3 times. Now, as I say, I'm an old woman. I'm married 34 years on the 6th of February.
Oh,
And we've spent most of our life together here in Europe, in
that's
Germany.
That's an
Yeah.
incredible story. What an amazing journey. So, two things I have
Yes.
to say right off the bat. One is happy almost anniversary.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
And two, please thank your husband for his service.
Thank
Always
you.
grateful to our veterans. So huge thank you to him for his service.
Thank
Um,
you.
I'm in awe of that alone. So now tell me, when did you start writing this book with
The
all of
incident
this going
happened.
on?
The incident that is the base of this book happened in 1999, September of 1999, and the cause and effect of it, if you will, went through the year 2000. And in the middle of 2000, maybe May, June, we had an opportunity to go to Germany. My husband had an opportunity for this job, and I wanted to run away. And we packed up our house in Florida. We had a house in Florida, and we had it for 25 years. We just sold it a couple of years ago. But at any rate, we packed up and we moved to Germany and put the children in German schools. And I started to write the outline to get the poison out. I had to get the first draft done to get the poison out of me and be able to move on. And so the first draft was written in 2000, and then I let it sit. I put it in a drawer, and I got on with my life. And I had a happy marriage, and I had a wonderful family and a huge adventure. And in 2009, so we were in Stuttgart for 2 years, had the boys settled in an international school. My husband was okay with his job. I was doing some catering for the military and for the church on the base. And I opened up the drawer to the secret compartment and thought, this is a project that needs completion. But It took 10 years. 10 years, because I was raising 2 teenage boys. I had 2 black Labradors, and my husband is a gorilla. I had a lot to do. I had my hands full. And it was a process that needed that amount of time, because I wanted to polish it and I wanted it to be coherent. I didn't want it to be the rambles of an emotional woman from an emotional point of view. I wanted it to be, in one way, entertaining, and another way, instructive. And in the last part, I wanted it to be healing and empowering for me, so that I had a message to give to people that was viable. So it took time.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially when you're writing about real life events. It's so different than writing fiction. Fiction is fiction. You're just making it up, and usually, fiction, of course, takes some borrows from real life, of course. But it's fiction. Real stuff is stuff that you're working through emotionally and trying to understand and finding objectivity with something that's so close to you, that's in you. What a struggle that is. Tell me a little bit. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the interesting thing about the process for me is that, in what you're saying, in order to detach and be able to present as a nonfiction narrative book that is not biography, autobiography, it's not memoir, it's not the wonderful vacation we had in France. It was an incident that was traumatic, life altering, and I had to be non-emotional. So the book is written in 3 sections, and the first section is shock, second is denial, and the third is acceptance. In the first section, I write in the third person present. She sits, she says, she sees. In the second section, I wrote in the third person past, which is she said, she did, she was, she is, not she is, she was. And then in the third section, to bring it forward so that it's personal, upfront, and present, I wrote I am. I wrote in the first person present.
Wow, what a brilliant way of storytelling and of bringing the readers through this process. Do you have a background in like English literature or?
I studied journalism at Hunter College. I wanted to be a writer since I was a little girl. I love English and grammar, and the production of a sentence is really exciting for me. I really, I could toil over one word for days. Yes. What word? Yes. I love the thesaurus. It's like my best friend. So yes.
This is exactly why I love doing this podcast, because I get as excited about these same things.
I do.
It's literally, that's why it's the Writer's Tribe talk show, because you find your tribe in here and you talk to people that understand your language and your feelings about words. Like, I'm obsessed with words and their meaning and everything. So yes, totally. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just my excitement.
No, it's so lovely. Yes, words are just. Well, I was talking with my husband the other day. He was making a joke. I don't know if you ever saw a movie called Throw Mama from the Train.
Yes.
It's Danny DeVito and Patrick. My husband would be able to tell you all the characters that are in the story. But it's Billy Crystal. And he's a writer. He's a struggling writer. And he's struggling with this first sentence. And it says, the night was hot. The night was damp. The night and Danny DeVito's mother comes out and she says, the night was sultry. And it's the perfect word. It's the perfect word. And he's so angry because it's the perfect word. The opening sentence.
Yes. And every writer is probably like sitting there going, say this.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Our quest for the perfect word, the perfect phrasing, the perfect everything. It's exquisite and it's awful. Like it's both
it
things
is excruciating. It can be excruciating because if the word doesn't fit and it doesn't fit, you can't go forward. Yeah.
Exactly.
But when it does fit.
Oh, It's glorious, right?
So good. Yeah. Yeah.
So now you said that so the book took you in total, really, it was like a 10-year process, obviously with some, in the drawer time, which I think is good. I think a lot of aspiring authors think that you sit down every day for, I don't know, 3, 6 months, a year, and write every day, and then it's done, and then you move on, and then you publish, and then you do this. And, the true story of the process of a book is there is no one way. There are certainly authors who do exactly that, and
That
I tend
can.
to. Yeah. And when I write, I haven't written in a little while, but when I write, I treat it as a 9 to 5 job. But I have the luxury of doing that. If I were writing something like you were writing, it's almost impossible to do it that way, I think, because there's so much processing, emotional and mental processing, and all of that. Now, and I apologize, I've only read the first chapter, and
Oh,
I
you
do
did
look
though.
forward to, yeah, I do, yes,
Oh.
so good, so well written, by the way.
It took me, thank you so much. It took me probably 3 months to get the first 2 pages the way I really wanted it, because it's very difficult as writers to figure out where to begin in a book. Where do you start? Do you start when the story went at the beginning of that day of that incident? Do you start in the middle and then bring them back to what happened? And the process of what's going to entice, what's going to enthrall, what's going to make them want to turn that page and read more is hard. That's hard.
It's very hard. It's very hard. And and you can ask 10 different people and they'll give you 10 different opinions.
I know. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hard
So how did you decide? Did you have like beta readers, somebody reading it saying like, that's the one, or did you just feel it in your heart that
I
this
didn't
is?
have any help at all, no help
Mhm.
at all, until this book was done in 2019. Then I work at an international school, and I don't know if you read the foreword, but in the book, I'm not sure if you have an ebook or if you got a physical copy, but in the foreword, it explains how I had gotten to a point where I was ready to see if the book was viable. And I asked colleagues at the international school to read the book. I only wanted them to read it. And 3 or 4 of them ended up editing it just because they were interested enough to take it further for me.
That's
And
awesome.
they never had any input as to where I should start. I had that all on my own. But what I did realize was that when I started with it was an incident that happened at the end of a long day. And I had originally 10 years prior started in the morning of that day, laying in bed and the sun streaming in through the shutters and thinking, I don't want to get out of bed. I just want to stay here with my family. I have so much to do today. And I realized that that's something that you talk about later. What I needed to do was get right into the thick of it. So as you saw in the first chapter, you got right into the thick of it. You saw right away what the conflict was, how you're going to see further on what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, that was such a smart way to start it too, because that's exactly what happened. You have to, and that is a perfect way to start a book. People, they say if you don't get them in the first, I forget what it is, 5-10 pages, it's probably even less than that. If you don't get them in the first page, in the first paragraph, that you'll probably lose them. And so very smart writing there, ma'am.
Thank you
Very
so
smart.
much. Thank you so much. Oh,
I love
golly.
it. I love it. So we talked before we went live, so to speak, we were talking a little bit about the publishing process too. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you know it's self-published?
Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon is an incredible platform because you decide what size you want. You decide the size of the book you want. They give you a format, and you take your Microsoft Word document and you put it into this format.
Right.
Then when your format is correct, which was a lot to do with pages and gutters and margins and getting the title on one side and the author's name, my name on the, I either could have the title and my name and no numbers. Oh, it was so much work to try and coordinate everything.
Yes.
And then they have the book design packet where you can put your own design, or you get a professional, which I told you I had to do later on. And the process of deciding what size you want and how you matte or glossy or white paper or yellow paper or it was the font size.
So many options, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, which is wonderful and stressful at the same time too, right? Trying to make those decisions. But yeah, it's an incredible tool, I think, for self-published authors. I love it. I personally am a huge fan. Now, what made you decide to go with self-publishing rather than seeking a traditional publisher? What was your thought process with that?
Well, I sent a query letter to probably 40 literary agents. I looked for my genre. I'm nonfiction narrative, creative nonfiction narrative. So I looked specifically to see what literary agents are interested in that genre, because it's in a children's book. So at any rate, you get your, you have to get on that track,
Right.
And I received, so from 40, I received 3 rejections, probably the majority of the rest of them were no responses at all. Nothing.
Very typical.
Not even,
yes.
Nothing.
Yep.
And then 2 were very interesting read, not right for my book club, already chose my books for this year, good luck. And I was frustrated because I kept thinking, well, maybe my hook isn't right, or maybe I'm not grabbing them, it's not enthralling enough. I questioned and questioned and questioned. And one of my colleagues that had read the book and was absolutely over the moon over it said to me, why are you waiting for a literary agent? Why are you waiting to win the lottery? Why? Do this yourself, promote this yourself. This is a book that needs to get out there right now. She said, it's taken you 10 years. You're done. You did it. You did it. So let's go on to the next phase. And she was my mentor, and she was so positive, and she had published children's books of her own. She's an artist of her own right, and an author of 7 or 8 books. And then she has them in different languages, because we work at an international school. So we have people of all nations and cultures at our fingertips. And I'm having my book translated into German right now. It's 95% done in German.
That's so
what I'm going to do with that, I have no idea.
Yeah.
No.
You never know. You never know. What a great idea. That's so exciting. And, and I think it's so important because, and we talked about this also beforehand, that writing this whole process, it's such an isolated, activity. It's so, you're so completely alone in it. And when you do find people who understand and know what you're going through and what the experience is, I think it's so important to have people who do exactly what your coworker did and just kind of take you by the hand and say, no, come on, here we go, we're doing this. And and that's huge. And I think for everyone out there that is a new or an aspiring author, these are the people that you surround yourself with. These are the people that you look to for, constructive criticism and advice and their knowledge and all of that. Because I've heard horror stories of people being in like writers groups that are very negative and critical, and it just scares them away from, they give up on their dream. And that's like a dagger in my heart when I hear that. So I'm so glad you had somebody like that in your corner, telling you, come on, you're doing this. So that's
very grateful.
Awesome.
Very grateful. Very.
And I know you have 2 sons, and I gather from our pre-conversation that they are very supportive of mom's endeavor here.
Right. They what I have to try and emphasize is that like you said, it's a very it's not lonesome, it's a lone project. You do it, you do it alone. You must do it alone. So in the time that I was writing in these 10 years, my boys were growing up. They were in an international environment. They were in a different culture. They embraced the culture and the language. And I had the opportunity to be at home raising them with my husband. And they didn't even really during those 10 years, they really didn't know what I was doing. They were partying, because in Germany and in Europe, you party younger, you can have a beer at 16. It's a very different environment. And I was just slow and steady, finishing the job. And then when it got to the technical things, the things on the computer,
I
that
feel
is
ya.
all
Yes.
my boys' generation.
Oh,
And
that's
they know
awesome.
it secondhand. They just know it.
Yes.
Then they came in and they were supportive, and they would say, Mama, you don't know that. You let me show you. Ding, ding, ding. And poof, it was presented to me. It was very nice to have
Oh,
that
that's so
innate
nice.
technical ability that they have in this
Yes.
generation.
It's so true. Yeah. They do it without even thinking, it's amazing. It's the same way we
Amazing.
write, we write in cursive, easily and without even thinking about it. They're like, what's that?
Yes, when
Right?
they're tight, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Now tell me, so I love your book cover. It's so beautiful. And I don't know, maybe I'm biased because I simply love that color so much, but it really is a beautiful book cover. Tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Well, the book cover is the second version.
Okay.
The first version was a black background. Accountability was in bold white. And
Mhm.
under accountability in bold white said a suggested book for reading groups. Because I'm seeking counseling centers, I'm seeking women's groups, women's self-empowerment, mindfulness groups. I'm seeking people that are looking for an alternative to the way they're behaving in their relationships, an alternative to the way they communicate, a better understanding of how they can self-empower and be responsible and accountable for the way they present themselves. And the book cover was a print of a painting that my father had done. And it was what I thought accurate and poignant. And my younger son said to me after 6 months of trying to promote this book, Mama, I'm very sorry, but I have some bad news for you. Your book cover is beautiful, sentimental and beautiful, but it's not going to sell. And he said, I don't want to hurt your feelings. And I said, that's all right. Excuse me. I got up, I went to my bedroom, I closed the door, and I cried for 3 days. And then they kept knocking. Are you okay? Are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. I came out and I thought, okay, this is the new generation. This is not mean. He is doing this to help me.
Mhm.
And he said, Mama, your book is personal. Maybe you want a sketch of a woman, just with one line, a line sketch of a profile and a shoulder. He said, your subtitle, suggested book for reading groups, is not saying what the book is about. It took us about 3 weeks. He and his lovely girlfriend and I sat down and brainstormed. He said, what is this book about? What are we talking about here? And facing the truth to discover self-empowerment is what this book is about. I had to face the truth. I had to find my own accountability. We all have to find our own accountability, because without that, we cannot go forward and be self-empowered, productive, positive, healthy people. So then he said to me, okay, we'll look for print. And we got on the internet and we bought this profile. I just love her. And my son said to me, what are your favorite colors? This is just so beautiful.
Beautiful.
She's just
Yeah.
so nifty.
I
She's
love it.
just so nifty. I love her.
Yes.
He said, what are your favorite colors? I said, well, I love that sea foam green, turquoise, sky, aqua, very pale, and gold. And he said, okay, let's do it. And my son is an artist. Both my parents are professional artists. And I didn't get, and I can't draw stick people, but my son is really awesome. And he designed the cover, the back.
Beautiful.
And then he found this watercolor imprint to put over it. And he just did the whole thing.
He did awesome. Yeah. Is he for hire?
He did. I'm
Yeah,
so pleased.
that's fantastic. I
Thank
love
you.
that. Now, I want to go back a little bit and just talk about your theme and your concept, because I think it is, more than ever, such an important theme. It's accountability. Personal accountability is, one of the things, and I hate to get on my little soapbox, but it is one of the things that is, so lacking, I think now, and for a long time, honestly. We look to blame everything external for everything that goes on in our life. Like, that's the answer. I didn't get the job because that boss is a jerk. I didn't, this relationship failed because he or she is a jerk, and we don't really take that time to honestly reflect on our own accountability, our own role in our lives. And I think the
How
message is
we
so
present
important.
ourselves, how
Mhm.
we present ourselves. The most important thing that I learned is that I have to be conscious every day of how I present myself.
Mhm.
It's not easy. I'm hot tempered. I flare up. I think my way is the best way. I think of a solution faster. I think it's quick what I can do. It's efficient. And I don't give way to taking a breath and just looking at the entire situation. I
Mm.
want to plunge in and say, but I can do this. I can do this. I can do it all myself. It's not always the best way. And we
Right.
all think that we're being kind or we're being respectful or we're being generous, but essentially I'm I'm doing for me. I'm doing
Mhm.
what feels good for me. And that's okay.
Right.
It is. It's got to be
Mhm.
okay, because how else
Right.
are we going to be happy? How else are we going to be happy if we don't do
True.
what's okay for us? But
Mhm.
taking into account the other person, so often my husband, I'll say something to my husband and he'll say to me, "Why are you talking to me with that tone?" And I am not aware
You're
at
not even
all
aware of it, right?
that I am. And I'll say, "What tone?" And he'll say, "That tone."
Yes, I think you might have just described every relationship.
Right? Right?
Yes, yes.
That
Listen, I'm finding everything that you're saying so completely relatable, and you saw me, I'm raising my hand. I'm like, yeah, that's me too. I'm like, I feel like I should have a neon sign over me
I
here saying it's her, she's that guy. But yeah, and that's the obvious, to me, the obvious appeal of the book, that people will see themselves in this and say, yeah, you know what, I may not have had that exact same situation or set of circumstances, but the reaction and the responses and the aftermath and the journey of it are so relatable. And I love that. I love that you do this in 3 parts, so you really take your reader on this emotional growth journey, which is exactly what people are looking for. I think, we all want the answers to what troubles us, and or at least this gives kind of a roadmap to that, I think.
tools. It has
Yeah.
tools. What happened was I had to go through this counseling program, and I asked the counselor if I could use the curriculum in the sessions
Mm.
in a book. I had wanted during this time in 2000, I had thought about turning this into a book. And he said, yes, you can use the guidelines if you change the names and the genders. And so in the second part, in the third part, in the second and third part, you start to see the guidelines of what I had to embrace in this program. And it's tools on how to communicate what you're trying to communicate in a respectful enough way that you're respectful to yourself and to your partner. It's very interesting.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
it's very hard. It's not an easy
Yes,
thing to do.
it's
And
not.
it's so in the back of the book, there were two uh, worksheets that this counselor had given. And one is called a personal bill of rights, and it's in the back of the
Hmm.
book. It's a tear out page.
Okay,
And the
cool.
first thing says, I have the right to ask for what I want. And then it says down further, I have the right to change and grow. And then it says, I have the right to have my needs and wants respected by others. It's a powerful message. The book has a powerful message. The one before it is called self-talk. And it says, the first line is, I don't need to prove myself in this situation. I can remain calm.
Ooh, just yeah, you know what? Even just hearing that, it's like it centers you. It really does.
It
It centers
does.
you. It
It
takes the
does.
power away from the emotion and puts it in a better place, really. I
It
love that.
does.
Yeah.
And one says here, people are going to act the way they want to act, not the way I want them to act.
Mm. That is a hard one to accept, right? And it's when
Ah,
we really need to accept that.
it
Oh, this is
is.
what a great book. Go out and buy it. Anybody watching this or listening to it, could be either or. Go buy this book. It sounds just
Thank you so
amazing.
much. Thank
So
you
good.
so much for this time.
Oh, you are so welcome. Now tell everybody where they can find you and your book.
Well, I am on Amazon, Laura Strobel, Accountability, Facing the Truth to Discover Self-Empowerment. I have it. It's Amazon lets authors do hardcover, paperback, and ebook.
Beautiful.
I've gone ahead, it took 10 months, and I created an audiobook with my voice saying, oh
Exciting.
my. So
I love
it
that.
was
That's
really an
awesome.
exciting experience. And so it's on audio, ebook, paperback, and hardcover on Amazon. I also have a Facebook page. I also have an Instagram account. And I tried Twitter, but it didn't really work for me. So
I feel you on that.
I
Yeah,
haven't
same
done
here.
anything really with Twitter at all. But yes, thank you so much for this opportunity for this promotion. It's very exciting
You are
to
so
talk
welcome.
with
Thank you
you.
so much for coming on the show and telling us about your writing journey and your wonderful book. And I
Thank
look
you.
forward to sharing this with everyone and
Thank
helping you
you.
get the word out for this because
Thank you
it's a
so
great book.
much.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
All right, guys, we will see you next time on the Writers Tribe Talk Show.